Hello, Kirsten.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you. I'm fine. And you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Very good.
Very nice tableau just behind of you.
Yeah. That was a picture my daughter drew when she was at primary school.
And very nice. It's
Yeah.
very nice selection of the color.
Yeah. It's very nice. So, I guess what I just wanted to check while there was the two of us here was which
There are
school
some people are now joining.
joining?
I see. Is yes. I think the session will start at 7 minutes later. So
excellent.
In the meantime, I can ask you that there is no any issue with echo, right? With my voice.
No, we're good today. Yeah.
Okay, I think I think your voice is also very clear. I will also share my screen for trial.
Okay. So I've shared mine, so that's a good check. So we should have mine up.
Okay.
Yep, I can share. I can see your screen, and yep,
Okay.
we can see yours as well. So it looks like we've practiced this, Murat.
Yes, it's always good to double check technically that you can never know sometimes that you cover everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so for those that are still joining us, I think we're going to start the session in about 5 minutes' time at 1:30. But feel free to put any comments or questions in the chat bar already. Introduce yourselves. You'll hear from Murat and I introducing ourselves very shortly. Okay, we're coming up to half hour. Am I correct in thinking we've got 52 people listening in on us, or is that 52 and then we've got 11 listening in on this?
11 is in the
11.
session of operational excellence.
Okay, excellent. And we've got Eric. Eric, who's joined us live, which is good. Okay, I guess we'll make a little bit of a start just in terms of making sure that everybody knows their way around the platform. Murat and I had a bit of a practice on this earlier in the week, so I wouldn't call either of us experts, but I'm sure we'll get there with some help from Victoria and Rochelle. So the session today is intended to be interactive. So please add any comments that you have to the chat. Put your hand up and ask any questions if you can. I've got access to a button here that enables me to let you speak. So if you do want to speak, just let us know, and we'll try and add those in. But welcome to the GE session on operational excellence. I'm Kirsten Oliver, and I lead the asset management global team for Advisian, which is the consulting group of the engineering company Worley. The session, as I say, is intended to be interactive. We've got a couple of presentations to begin with. So for the format of the session, we'll have 2 presentations and then open the floor to questions. We'll try and keep the presentations brief, that will raise some questions so that we can all discuss. And I'm hoping that we'll get some good lessons learned from recent months, lessons learned from different industries that we can share and talk around during the Q&A session. So our first presentation today, we'll talk about the cultural elements of operational excellence. And I'd like to welcome Murat to the stage. So Murat's a quality management operation and business excellence leader with over 12 years of experience in medical devices and fast-moving consumer goods. So I'll hand over to Murat, and he'll share his insights and some of the details of his company.
Thank you very much, Kirsten. Hello to everyone. As Kirsten mentioned, I'm Murat Aydin, working at GC Europe for almost 10 years now. I'm responsible for quality assurance and business excellence. And I will be presenting a journey for you. As you may now know that we have been staying at home, and therefore that I'm also working from home now, and I ensure that the children will not come and disturb me and disturb us also, because they are taking care of their mother. But if we hear any voices from them, please excuse. One of them are 3 years old, other is 8 months old. And as you may know that we were staying in you'll now see my screen on the presentation. So if you double click your screen, that you can already have to maximize your screen so you can see my PowerPoint. And together with you, I want to start with a journey. And this journey is actually as a Japanese company's journey. GC Europe is the European, Middle East, and African hub of GC organization. We are located in headquarters in Tokyo, but our European, Middle East, and African headquarters is in Leuven in Belgium. This company produces medical devices like dental products that we are talking about, like any consumable, filling materials, implant to the dental professional, who are dental professional, dentists, dental technicians. So if you need any suggestion for the dental, you can always contact with me later also. I have a lot of friends from dentists from everywhere. And this, you can see a car, and this car that we will stay together and take your seat to have this journey of excellence, how the company, or GC, had been already for 100 years now. Because the company started in 1921 in Tokyo in a small, tiny laboratory. It has been founded with the 3 founders, and you can see their name here. And it's become a family-owned company now, because currently that the family of Nakao have taken off all the company business, and then this become a 4th generation now of a family-owned company. After 1 year later, these 3 chemists that they graduated from the university, they introduced a product. This was a standard cement. It failed on the market. The reason for that, they didn't really understand they didn't really ask what the dental professionals are looking for. So they develop a product in the laboratory, and when they introduce and they find out that it's not what the dental professionals look for and doesn't answer their need. But the company culture is started because of this, that we want to ensure that we can learn from the failure, and failure is part of the success. So therefore, this day has been decided as this year has been decided as a founding year. GC Corporation today is that we have in America, we have in Asia, we become a global organization. And before starting also the operational excellence and why it is important, the purpose of the companies is very important. And you may now hear many times, what is the identity of the companies? What is the identity of the organization? What is the purpose of their existence? So therefore, I want to start very short introduction of the oral health, and then we'll continue with the purpose of GC. Because this leads all the excellence approach afterwards, and why we do it. First of all, you may know that oral health is the essential part of our body. You cannot isolate ourselves from our body. So therefore, that many things that maybe the chronic illnesses that could be linked with the oral health, which there is no good hygiene, or maybe the cavities that could maybe lead some certain chronic illnesses like cancer or the diabetes. Therefore, that the oral health is very important for our general well-being. And also, you can imagine that now we have a more living and working in an age of longevity. The 100 years of living and working is not a surprise anymore. Therefore, the importance of the oral health is getting very important. My grandmother passed away when she was 105 years old. And last 40 years of her life, she didn't have one even teeth in her mouth. Imagine that for 40 years last, she couldn't enjoy eating any simple foods that she could enjoy. And this actually, as you can see, that with 100 years, it's not surprise for like long longevities that, for example, like Japan or many European countries, that more and more that we have seen that we have long living in our organization. Therefore, GC had created a philosophy, and the core mission of GC, existence of this, is to significantly contribute to the oral health of the human society, because this is an important factor to support oral health and then create towards the century of health. By doing this, the culture of the organization is very important, as you may know. And this unique culture of identity over the 100 years, GC has been built into 3 different pillars: the Semui, Nakama, and the GQM. So today you will see, you will hear many Japanese words from me, because it's a Japanese company. So welcome to the Japanese course also today. And I will start with the first one, GC no Kokoro. GC no Kokoro is our company culture, we can call it. In translation to English, it is GC's heart. This is the book that created and written by our owner of the company, Mr. Makoto Nakao. And this book is describing all the main elements of our organization. What is the history of the company? What is the philosophy of the company? What is the key pillar, like innovation or GC quality management or excellence mindset? And this actually book given to all newcomers of our organization whenever that they started to work. And based on this book also, we created an intercultural training program. Whenever that the new person comes, start to work, we provided 2 days of training to them. Because this is like injecting and then aligning the company culture to all organization. And also this company culture are also embedded to all our related processes. For example, recruitment. When we look for the candidate, whether they can fit to our organization. Therefore, we align the questions. We also align it with our evaluation process. We align it with our communication process. The Semui philosophy is coming from there. Semui philosophy is nothing more than is the respect, or nothing. We can also describe there is to understand from other people's point of view and acting accordingly. It's like empathy. We can also translate. So without empathy, how we can really understand the needs of other people, or how we can fulfill their expectation. But therefore, that the SEMU is the philosophy, is the mindset of the organization. And nakama is another word. Is the nakama means comradeship, friendship between each other. We can translate. And this nakama spirit is very important for GC also, because we want to ensure that we have an open organization. We can talk the problem without blaming each other to solve the issues. We can say that we are all in the same level in the organization, regardless of the hierarchy. Therefore, we can call each other nakama. So we call nakama also owner of the company, also president of the company, also in the shop floor. And in the nakama spirit is really important, because based on this, that we can create a good problem solving skills, a good culture of excellence and continuous improvement. And as you can see here, that there is a certain my vision concept in the organization. We expect that the vision of the person, of associate, should have the certain correlation with the company vision. So we want to integrate this together. So what we do in a yearly, at least, we ask the associate, because we call also to our employees as associate, not the employees. We ask them what is their vision, what are their vision, and they describe that, and we want to support. Like you can also see in this example, many of the associates are really appreciating this, because we support their vision and their own dream, and then we can link with the company vision together. For instance, in our team, in my team, one of the team members that I'm managing in the department would like to further focus on sustainability. And then we dedicated certain time on this aspect to her to work together with the CSR team. Or in the other example, like one person was dedicated for the environmental audits, then we supported them. So this way we can create this link with their vision and with the company vision. And this is very important, because it's a 100 years old company, and then they started with the leadership, with all the company level, that there is a commitment to quality management, commitment to excellence. And this is not only the saying, and also we want to ensure that this also we are recognized. For instance, the Japan Quality Medal that our Japanese organization received, Deming Prize that the company received. And the Deming Prize also, our owner of the company also received the individual Deming Prize, because he did a big contribution individually also to the quality management also. This embedded commitment and the culture of excellence also moved with the certain system we called. This system is GC quality management. And what we say is GQM. And we metaphor this in a very nice car. You can imagine whatever. So we think that we have everything on this system, and we think that this car is called GQM. And the engine of the car is the Kaizen. But we call this, later I will come, Kaizen innovation. We don't call only Kaizen, we call it as Kaizen innovation, and it's the engine of the car. And we believe that the driving seats are nakamas, and it continue to vision. And then I will explain also that it's our vision 2021. And with a certain PDCA cycle that we continuously evaluate and focus on how we can achieve the vision with this car. And there's a navigation. I will also explain shortly that we use a certain excellence model. It comes from the European Foundation for Quality Management, EFQM, and we also work with them almost for 15 years now, because we believe that with the changes in the world, with the VUCA, we can also have a certain navigation with the EFQM excellence model to understand how we can adapt ourselves, how we can make the change in an easy way. This is our vision management. So this is the Hoshinkanri. So this is one of the pillar of GQM, important pillar. As you can see, and this is the Hoshinkanri, is the policy deployment in English. We can also translate. There is a certain cascading all the on the strategies, on the policies, all the targets of the company. It started with the culture, GC no Kokoro. It translated to corporate vision 2021. It's a 10-year vision. And then we have 5-year plan, we have 3-year plan, we have 1-year plan, and then we have the departmental policy or functional policy, which has been supported with the processes, with the project, and with the performance indicator. By always keeping the stakeholder in the minds and then to core of to support them. And this vision management process is very important, because you may imagine that if we don't have this, that there can be certain difficulties to achieve this. For example, if we don't cascade in a good way, then we can have an issue with the wrong cascading and then not fulfillment of the task. In the what we're proud of, that this is a certain streamlined, and then we can see with the company culture or the vision or the 5-year plan, we can have a correlation to the personal targets of the people, of our associates. And this vision management is very important also for the communication aspect, because we communicate the vision very clearly. This is the vision of the organization, again, very much linked to the purpose existence of the company, challenge to the number one dental company of the world, through making further contribution to the healthy long living society. It has been announced in 2011, because this is it's a 10 years that we have the vision. And as you can make an easy calculation, next year we will announce our next vision, Vision 2031. And Vision 2031 we will announce in the 100 years old company. So when we celebrate our 100 years. I will explain very shortly what I mentioned EFQM, but we simplified together with the Dr. Christian Forstner, who is one of the guru in the business excellence community, and then he had been assessed many organizations worldwide. So according to this model, first of all, the stakeholders, what are their expectation is the key, to understand them. And then how can we make them happy? How they can create them advantage? How we can create them value? So to understanding on their expectation is the key. So this is the general stakeholder in a company can have: owner, shareholder, customer, associate. But this also, we can also translate it to our daily work, right? For example, in the family, you have your wife, your husband, your children, your grandmother, your uncle. So this you can also see in the way that we can translate easily this simple model to our life. And the strategy is the high-level answer of what the stakeholders expected, how we can fulfill them. And then we put it into the processes, all the processes that we have the organization, from production, from quality control, from marketing. And maybe it's interesting that to say that we have two different indicators. One is the performance indicator, to really understand the efficiency of the processes, how it's really working. And the second is the benefit indicator. To this benefit indicator, we really defined, we classify another one, because this is the one that we can understand that whether we are really fulfilling the expectations of our stakeholder. And this is a cycle. This is a continuous cycle that we work on to create excellence, to create value, to create advantage to our stakeholder. So many organizations are failing this, but we feel that we can implement in the organization this cycle, this spiral, in a way that we can create the stakeholders' expectation and happiness. The Kaizen innovation is, I also mentioned, that is the engine of our GC quality management, because this is the mindset of continuous improvement in the organization. We believe we can improve anything, and there is no end for continuous improvement. From the it's this belief, this is committed, started from the owner of the company to all the shop level, and this is supported by all the leaders in the organization. And we believe that all the Kaizen becomes that what we work, and around 2,000 Kaizen we do in a year. This brings the incremental improvements in the organization. And there also we believe when there is a radical breakthrough, then it also supports to streamline, standardize the process. So whenever that we have a radical breakthrough changes in the organization, Kaizen help us to streamline the processes and streamline the innovation process. What I mentioned, that this commitment is coming from all the organization, and this we need to show with the leading with an example. So therefore, every year we do the local competition in GC Europe level. This is the picture from our Kaizen competition, and you can see that this is the winners of them, and the executive committee of the company, the GC Europe, is the jury. We have a selection process also earlier, of course, and the winners also goes to the global level. 1 year later, we will have 100 years, we will have global competition again, and then there will be around 1,000 people in this Kaizen competition that they will be hearing this. We have categories also for the Kaizen competition. administration, operation, and the sales category. So we implement the Kaizen improvement project everywhere, and we recognize them. GKM Promoter Program is very important for us because in order to enhance the excellence culture, in order to enhance the culture of quality management, continuous improvement, we need ambassadors. Of course, the managers are ambassadors, but we created a certain training program to help them also. And then we create like a color code in order to create some certain way of level of their expertise with the certain book, GQM textbook we call, as a customized for us to be built over the year. Any newcomers, as I mentioned also earlier, we have a GC no Kokoro training, and then first day is dedicated to culture, and the second day dedicated to GC quality management, GQM. So we have a very interactive day. We created together with Kaizen Institute, located in Netherlands, and we have an interactive game second day. Then we have GKM ambassadors. We call them GQM master practitioner, and these people are like each department is the ambassadors of the GQM. So we provide them a training, and then we qualify them, and we create also continuous education and qualification system after they had been the first time they have received the training. And these people, and also all the GQM promoters we have, then we give the training to all nakamas on associate as GQM practitioner training. And also we know that in this VUCA world, whatever that the knowledge here will not be enough. So we are continuously improving the educational knowledge on our GQM promoter program with the new tools and methodologies. You may know, we can also see here is the Lego game, Lego series play, design thinking. So we created a different sections, different items in our GQM training program. This commitment also help us. I also showed before the Deming Prize GC organization got in Japan, but GC Europe particularly become a pioneer in Europe, and also become a very good example also in GC organization. While we are using the EFQM excellence model, and this EFQM excellence model we started in 2006 with the committed to excellence. There are different levels. So these levels means that there are assessors, external assessors come visit your organization, and they assess your organization based on EFQM excellence model. And this EFQM excellence model that they can see that whether your level is good enough, or you are in a world-class organization, that they recognize your organization. And of course, they assess other organizations, so therefore they can define the level with the benchmark also. And based on this, that you can see is a long journey. In 2019, finally, we become the Global Excellence Award winner. It was a proud, of course, that we have been received 6 months ago. We become the first Japanese company, first Benelux-oriented company, and first dental company to achieve this award. As I started earlier, we have 100 years is normal to live, and then GC Europe will celebrate also to 100 next year. So the old age is the wonderful thing, and hopefully that with all the issues we have now, we will have the healthy, long-living society together. So it was my last slide. Thank you very much for listening.
Murat, thank you very much. A fantastic insight into how the cultural aspects are incredibly important in any organization.
Thank you very much, Kirsten. Of course, this was the presentation. I wanted to do it. Of course, we are looking for any question, elaborate any slides that they have. The aim of this presentation was to give some inspiration, some certain example of a culture of excellence in the organization, how it's built, and then what are the dimension and pillars that we have been implementing, and maybe it could be helpful for other companies. I think the hope is very important, right? With a good example that we can give, this can also get benefit for other people also.
No, absolutely. We do have one question that's been posted in the chat bar while you've been talking, Murat, from Onda, asking what's the difference between performance and benefit? Both are for the customer?
The performance, so any processes that you can have two kinds of indicator. Like for example, you can provide a lot of training to your associate. So the number of training, how many training hours. But this, you cannot understand that whether they were really satisfied of the training processes. So therefore, we can say that we can count number of training hours as a performance indicator. But for the benefit indicator, we need to ask them. Maybe it's like a survey we can ask. It can be after the training, or we have an annual associate survey, whether they were happy overall in the training program of the company, for example. This is one of the example I can give. Or maybe another example, after the training that they will use with this knowledge what they have, it will increase the productivity of a certain department, for example. This is the benefit indicator. So otherwise, we sometimes tendency to calculate the performance like a number of training, but this cannot really give for us whether we really create the advantage for our stakeholders.
Okay. Thank you. We'll maybe come back to that, because I think that's a really good point of understanding how well you perform and what the benefits are to the client are not necessarily the same thing. So thank you very much, Murat.
Thank you. We have also one in the moderation panel, Odile. I think she wants to join there.
So Odile, do you have a question? I think she's just disappeared.
Okay, so maybe it was wrong.
No problem. Okay, well, we'll come back to some Q&A. I guess just a reminder again is if you double click on the screen that you want to maximize. So if you want to see the slide deck instead of looking at Murat and I, our wonderful faces, then if you double click on the slide, that will bring it up full screen, and hopefully that will be clearer for you to see. So I guess I want to touch now on some of the challenges that we faced in the energy, chemical and resources industry, particularly associated with OPEX spend rather than CAPEX spend, and look at really how we can optimize this spend and how we can capitalize on what we've learned over the last 2 to 3 months during the COVID environment.
I think Kirsten has some issue with her connection, so we will be waiting her. If you have any question in the meantime, you can also include this to the chat box, which we requested already. I think we need to wait for a couple of minutes. I think she will be solving soon. Thank you, Ander, for the good question. For Hoshin Carney is a regular process, so it's a systematic process. So Kirsten, welcome back. I have a question that I already received in the meantime, so I can answer this, and then you can already prepare yourself. For Hoshin Carney, that every year that this cycle is continue. So every year we review our Hoshin, we establish the Hoshin, and then this cascaded down to the departmental level. Of course, before also we also update every year the 5-year plan, 3-year plan, and then also every quarter we have a business review meeting with the top management. We review the Hoshin, how it is achieved, what is the gap if we have, and what is the countermeasures we can have. So this is a cycle that also we review this every quarter at least. In order to ensure that we have fulfilled the Hoshin targets, and of course it supports the vision objective, the company objectives in a clear way. I hope it answers your question on there. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Murat, and a fantastic interlude while my internet crashed. One of the joys of
it can happen.
About everything from working at home. So
Sure.
again, thank you very much. Hopefully you can see my screen. As we've said, if you click twice on that screen, hopefully it should expand. And then we should have technology on our side. As I said, my name's Kirsten Oliver. I lead the asset management team for Advisian, which is the consulting arm of Worley. And I'll share a little bit about what we do. Advisian is the consulting arm, as I said, of Worley Parsons, of Worley. Worley was formed this time last year as a result of the merger of Worley Parsons and Jacobs. And the Advisian group has been originally formed in 2014 as a result of Worley Parsons acquiring a number of management consultancy teams. The group now exists as a global consulting firm providing strategic and technical and management consultancy across a wide range of industry sectors, including the energy, chemical and resources sector. In terms of what we do, we work right across the asset life cycle. So we get involved very early on in creating value in terms of the concept and pre-feed stage of projects, right through to defining and executing projects, and then looking at optimizing value once we have facilities that are up and running and operational. And that's really where the operational excellence and the asset management capability come in, where we help our clients operate, maintain, and improve their assets. This is a combination of brownfield projects, portfolio delivery, asset management, business improvements, and operational and maintenance support. The asset management team that I look after within the organisation are a global team. We have about 65 people across the APAC and the EMEA regions, and we provide technical consultancy support, helping our clients set up and implement asset management systems across a range of their assets. So what I wanted to talk about today was just a little bit of what we've learned over the last couple of months and how we can help improve our operational performance going forward. So if we just start with the simple question of, what's actually happened in our industry in the last couple of months. So if we start looking at oil price, back in January, the price of oil was up at around about $65 a barrel, $68 a barrel. Yesterday it was down at $40 a barrel, and we've had a huge dip in that, where on the 20th of April there was actually a negative US price for oil due to supply and demand issues. The COVID situation has meant everybody's working at home. A lot of industry has closed down to cope with social isolation, and therefore the demand in hydrocarbons has absolutely fallen off the cliff. To an extent where we've got refineries that are shut down, we've got power stations in the UK that have closed down, and we're seeing a complete change in the way that we run our businesses. That change has got some kind of upside. In terms of the positives, we've had a significant reduction in emissions globally. As I mentioned before, Britain has closed down power stations. We've had 2 months now in the UK where we've not burnt coal to produce electricity. Those plants have been shut down, and I guess it begs the question, will it ever restart? Will we ever produce energy again from coal? Or will that just accelerate the projects that will turn those facilities into much more renewable resources? One particular facility that closed down 4 weeks ago, they're now looking at transforming that into a biofuels plant. We're putting much more reliance on renewables, but it's been the lack in demand over the last couple of months has really given us an opportunity to make some difficult business decisions around closing things down, but also look at how we can operate more efficiently going forwards. If we look at some of our manufacturing and our critical industries, they've adapted incredibly quickly over the last 2 months. They've increased production rates, they've changed their product supplies. And some of the examples we have in the energy and chemical sector is around some of the chemical firms that have changed their product and been producing hand sanitizer and producing critical equipment for PPE for our frontline defence staff against the COVID challenge. They've had the ongoing issue of supply chain challenges, getting raw materials, being able to process that and being able to increase their production significantly. One particular program that touched my mind yesterday, what I was watching, was inside the manufacturing industry. And when we look at the food industry, they've doubled the production of baked beans over the last 2 months because the supply's been increased. They've doubled the production of crisps coming into the factory, whereas they still import potatoes from America to be able to supply that chain. And one of the things they've done in the supply chain is they've laid on extra vessels that they've taken from alternative industries to enable them to continue to supply. So a completely agile way of working in terms of increasing production in some sectors and decreasing production in others. One of the things we've all been hit by as a result of the last 2 months of COVID is safety. Everything from washing hands, social distances, and personal safety has become increasingly significant across all of our industries, whether we're office-based, whether we're factory-based, whether we're site-based. But not only looking at our personal safety, most of our companies and our colleagues around the world have had a huge emphasis on people's mental safety as well. So looking at how we look after our people has become much more significant in all of the industry sectors that we work in. And we've adapted. We don't have to travel anymore. We can continue to work remotely, and this has got a huge amount of positive effects on what we do. So as this money tightens, the oil price has dropped, it's started to recover, but it's still not back to where it was. There's an increasing pressure to maintain our risks of operations on our high-risk plants as low as reasonably practicable. And how do we manage to do that? So when we look at our spend in our industry, we can split that into 3 different areas. We can split that into the first category being our license to operate. What do we really need to do to meet regulatory requirements? And how do we manage to push these back and stretch these, as some of us have had to do over the last few months, where we've not been able to get inspectors on site, we've not been able to get staff on facilities. We've used alternative techniques to modify our maintenance and inspection regimes to meet those license to operate limitations that we've got in our businesses. We can also put another bucket of HSE. So what do we need to do to keep people safe? What do we need to do to protect our environment? And what have we learned that we can live without on our facilities? We also have a third category of spend across our energy, chemical and resources facilities. And that's really the discretionary spend, is that spend that we have that helps us improve our practices. And in a lot of cases around asset management and operational excellence, some of that discretionary spend is there to help improve processes. And that in this current environment has absolutely been cut by our clients. So prioritizing that spend is now even more important than ever. How do we move the bottlenecks in our production? How do we make sure that what we're doing is as efficient as possible to maintain that license to operate and that HSE? So I guess the challenge to everybody that's listening today is can we really optimize our license to operate and our HSE spend even further? You know, we've across the energy sector, we've gone through various oil price crashes over the years and really looked at further optimizing maintenance and operations. And can we go any lower? So I think from my perspective, there's 3 elements to this. The first is we really do need to understand the current condition of our assets, whether that's physical integrity, whether that's reliability, whether that's our resource loading, whether that's the culture that we live in. All of the elements of integrity and maintenance are completely reliant on how well we know the current condition of our assets. We also need to understand our current business processes. You know, do we have the right people in place to be able to manage those facilities? Do we have the correct processes and procedures and policies to enable us to adapt, change our businesses and change our way of working? And all of that enables us to understand how we truly can manage the risk on our facilities. Really understanding what the probability of something failing against the consequence of that failure occurring, whether that be from an HSE perspective or whether that be from a production perspective. You know, are we going to let our clients down if we produce something a little bit slower or a little bit off spec? Are we going to really be able to be confident that we're meeting our license to operate requirements? And how are we going to manage our health and safety? Just want to touch now on a few of the things that we've learned during our COVID experience that become particularly important across our businesses. So What we've learned during our COVID experiences that will actually help us as we move into our new normal. Remote activities. Worley as an organisation employs 60,000 people globally. Within a period of about 3 weeks, we managed to mobilise all of those people to home working environments. We're still continuing to support clients on site. We're still continuing to run remote workshops. That's something that if you'd have asked any of our fellow colleagues in January, would we be able to work from home when 95% of our population of employees went into the office on a day-to-day basis, we would have never have been able to move to that mobile working culture that we have now. We have remote team working. One of the big advantages of remote team working now is that it doesn't matter where we're sat, whether we're sat in the UK, whether we're sat in Australia, or whether we're sat in the Americas. We can all work as one team. We can all deliver to clients and offer the savings to clients. One of the downsides, we do get a little bit of virtual meeting fatigue. We do spend our lives on video calls. We spend probably a little bit in excess of our standard working day because we do deal with clients around the world, and a 9 p.m. meeting is sometimes deemed acceptable. But the other thing that we've done is we've really picked up on our digital experience and our digital transformation. And because we've had to digitize our industry, we've had to work remotely in order to continue our business. We've done that in an increasing speed compared to what we thought was possible. We've got, as I say, 50,000 people working at home. Not many people have printers at home, but everybody used to sit in the office with desks full of paperwork. We manage in different ways. We've mobilized our team so that they can access complex software. We've got servers in certain locations that are accessed through the cloud that really help us with that digital mindset, and have really forced our workforce to think of that in a more of a digital way than we've ever done before. The other area that we've really been able to capitalize on is global teams. If we look at the global local delivery model, where we used to fly people into specific areas and support our local site-based people with subject matter experts from our centres of excellence, that typically took around about a week. We're now working in an environment where we can get somebody on the end of a video call or somebody on site with a phone, with a camera, to actually show and share information the other side of the world with nobody leaving their living room. And that has huge cost savings. And they're all critical and credible options that will help us manage aging plants when we've got to significantly reduce costs going forward. What we do need to do, though, is we need to optimize how we do this, and we need to implement those in very different ways. So they're all credible, but we really do need to understand what's critical, and we really do need to understand how we manage risk rather than trying to automate everything and focus our attention on where it's best needed. So if we go back to looking at asset management of the future, we've got our reliability-centered maintenance, our asset risk assessment, our criticality assessment. All of those activities would probably all be carried out in a workshop on site. Our failure mode determination, our critical spares, our computerized maintenance management build, our strategy determination, criticality, all of these elements on here that strive to ensure that we maintain our asset integrity, our reliability, and our maintenance management programs across all of our facilities. And under a regime where cash is not an issue, we would absolutely strive in that process to be excellent. We'd strive for continuous improvement. We'd strive to be the absolute best. I guess my challenge is, do we really need to be excellent? Do we really need the best when cash is strapped? Or do we need to look at how we understand our condition of our asset, we understand our risk, and we understand what our business process is, and really look at saying, is good enough sufficient? That's a challenge, and we need to understand, where do we start with a statement like that? So where do we start? Typically, we have been working with our assets and our clients in a stepwise approach. So the first step is looking at a framing workshop. How are we looking at changing our business? What are those business processes and those business drivers now? just going back to the example I gave around changing product, changing feedstock. So a chemical plant that's now producing hand sanitizer, it won't be producing hand sanitizer in 6 months' time. What's it going to be producing? What do we need the operating limits of that plant to be so that we can rapidly make change in an agile way? We also need to understand our design intent. So if we've had a facility that we've designed with a 25-year design life, and that business is no longer going to be viable in 25 years, how can we reduce our operating envelope and run that plant harder for shorter, or run it slower for longer, to really understand how we can maximize production and minimize cost. So we carry out these framing workshops to really understand what we need to do on a facility, not what we want to do, not what we wish to do, not the shopping list of we want condition-based monitoring across all of our plant because that's where the future is going in a digital technology, but really to understand the absolute bare bones of what's currently needed at the moment when cash is going to be an issue and will be for the foreseeable future. Only once we've defined those terms of reference and those real critical areas in a framing workshop do we carry out any detailed assessment. And that detailed assessment can be anything from carrying out fitness for service on critical vessels, looking at changing out processes, looking at really understanding risks, using a risk-based inspection approach on a plant. And then once we've done that detailed assessment, it's the implementation. And that's where a lot of the human factors come in. And touching back on Murt's subject of a culture of how do we embed those changes and those processes and procedures in our client's office, and really ultimately helping manage change in culture on the site to make sure that that is achievable. So I think those examples there that I've given of things that we need to think about do vary across industry sectors. They certainly vary for us in the energy, chemical, resources sector. So approaches and practices that we would be commonplace on an offshore installation, for example, are very different to those that would be on a chemical plant or a downstream refinery, despite the fact that they're all embedded in that hydrocarbon sector. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to hear from people on the call and also from Murt of, what do we really think is doable? Can we start to reduce what we're doing? Can we start to optimize cost? And how much of that cultural aspect that Murt talked about is really important in terms of making sure that we set ourselves up so that we can operate efficiently going forward. So I guess that's where I hand over to you and say, what can we learn and share from the sectors that we all work in? Because I think from when we look at the poll of what sectors people are working in, we've got people from the manufacturing sector, the finance sector, the pharma sector, the retail sector, as well as some from the energy sector. So I guess the floor's open. Please share your practices. What have you done over the last 2 months that we can all learn from and look to apply across multiple industry sectors? So Murt, can you still hear? Can we all hear Murt?
Thank you very much, Kirsten, for the nice presentation, for good presentation, very interesting overview. We have already one question from Neil. What is the biggest change that you feel we have had to make that is here to stay? So you can see in this question of.
So thank you. Thanks, Neil. I guess from my own personal perspective and the business that I run, lack of travel. So I think we've all learned to work very, very differently using our remote technology. I don't think I've ever spent as long at home as I have over the last couple of months. I've got significant reductions in my travel budget because I've no longer had to travel to site. We've adapted in the ways that we work. We also on the flip side of international travel, where we're no longer got people jumping on a plane to go and see clients around the world. We're saving costs there. We're doing our bit in terms of reducing emissions, but also we're spending a lot more time with our family at home. We're not even traveling to and from the office. So where we're based here, just outside London, it's quite common practice for people to spend 2 to 3 hours of their day commuting to work. And that's 2 to 3 hours of your day that you're getting back. and a lot of the team are using that to some advantage. Whether they're becoming more healthy, they're getting more outdoor time, getting their exercise in, because that's in line with guidance that we've got from our local government. But the flip side of that is, if you're not a gym bunny, we've got more time to spend with family. We've got more time to sit and relax, watch something entertaining on TV, and really look after our own mental health, rather than the pace at which we used to charge around between the office and home. I think just add to that, the lack of travel has made us think differently and use technology differently. We're currently carrying out an audit of a facility for a client where there's a language barrier between the two. We're using Google Translate, and we're doing stuff by video call, where typically we would have been on site with a translator. So it's just thinking differently and working differently.
Yes, indeed. I think I can give also, I think in addition to what you said, is also the change for us. I can also say that we were, of course, in the uncertainty in the VUCA world, but the uncertainty become more and more. So we had to be more and more agile in our decision-making process, because the parameters that which you don't know even in sometimes, so that you have to make an assumption, so you have to make a decision which is that maybe not even clear that what will be the next step. So this was actually the biggest change for us, that to learn to live and tackle the uncertainty more in this current pandemic topic. So
yeah. So do you feel you've made decisions quicker?
I think that in some aspect, yes. It forced to do this. Like, for example, you were talking very nicely about traveling. It's a Japanese company, and then we have every 6 months we have also business review, which is actually all the top management comes. So it's happened always face to face. It was the first time that we did it in the online platform. So we had 3 different continents that with the top management that we had to collect. Of course, the agenda had to be shifted. We had to shift also the travels in a very quick time. So it forced to do this. So, and then we did it in online. And of course, the way we were doing that, it was successful. So, and then we got benefit. And in the future, maybe we'll continue this way also.
Yeah, I know. We go through our budgeting cycle at the moment, and my budget for next year, I've cut my travel budget in half, because I know we don't need to travel.
For sure.
And we can spend that money on something more useful, and that's where our operations can improve.
Indeed. Okay. We have another question also. By the way, I don't know that you will be presenting your PowerPoint, so you can also remove it if you want.
Yep, let me take that off. There we go. Okay.
So there is another question. I think it's also maybe directly related to you first.
Okay, so from Hesham, in a highly regulated industry, for example, offshore, we often don't have the confidence for change. While risk-based inspection has been commonplace for some time, the current remote working enables us to do more assessment. Is this a good thing? So I think we need to just step back and look at this in two aspects, really. The offshore industry, absolutely very highly regulated, also very conservative for some very obvious reasons of taking risks in such an industry has huge implications, and therefore we've developed sets of processes and procedures that not only are highly regulated but include a lot of manpower of offshore and onshore timing, so the whole supply chain and the logistics feed into that as well. We have been trying as an industry to implement risk-based inspection into that, but I think that the challenge that we've had historically of implementing risk-based inspection is it's very easy to say we haven't got that data or we haven't got that information, because there's so many different people involved in collecting that data, collecting that information, specifying what information you need, understanding the degradation mechanisms. So whilst we have been working remotely, we've not been able to go and collect any of that data. We've not been able to mobilize inspection teams onto site. So I think we've really had to up our game in communication, up our game in asking the right questions for the right data. and being able to turn that around very quickly, because you can have a half-hour call instead of flying somewhere or traveling to site to ask a question when you only need one piece of data. So I think we've been able to do more assessments. So I absolutely agree with you on that, Hesham. Do I think it's a good thing? I think we need a blend of both. I think we need a blend of going on site and collecting that data, along with doing more assessments. And my personal view is that the last 12 weeks has helped us to have the confidence to be able to do more assessments. So whilst we had a lack of confidence in change, we've shown as an industry that we've had to change. So we've changed the dynamics and the culture of which we work in, which will help us implement risk-based inspection going forward more effectively. So I think it's a good thing, but I don't think that we can continue never going to site, never collecting data, and never looking at that regulatory time-based inspection requirement. I think we've got an opportunity now to have a happy medium between the two. Okay. Have we got anyone else on the call who's from industry sectors where they've looked at really changing the way they work, from a regulatory perspective, or from perhaps a manufacturing perspective, where the products changed, where they've had supply chain issues?
Or maybe is there any question that in general, maybe not focusing on the crisis, but in general that, in the continuous improvement on operational excellence in an organization? I want to ask this to Kirsten, because what's your structure in continuous improvement operational excellence in your organization? How do you promote, how do you boost the continuous improvement culture in your organization?
So I guess with two aspects to that, Murat. One is how we help promote that continuous improvement culture in our clients. The other is how we do that internally within our own organization. And I guess it's probably easier for me to answer that in our own internal organization. We are a team of technical specialists. We do a lot of networking. We do a lot of sharing conferences, understanding what is best in class, understanding what's new to the market. So a lot of our training of our team is on the job training. It's really understanding what solutions are out there and how we can transfer technology from one industry to another. So the asset integrity team that I manage, we often talk about a piece of metal rusts in an environment where there's water. It doesn't matter what industry sector it's in. So transferring that information across enables us to continually improve and continually learn, understand how one industry sector is responding to an environment, and then we can help our own industry respond in that way. So that's where we also help our clients in terms of continuous improvement, because we'll say, well, in this particular sector, sure, they're doing this, why don't we try, what do we need to do? Can we reduce our reliability based maintenance approach? Can we use this inspection technology that's been successful subsea or on an offshore platform? Can we use that on a chemical plant? How can we look at the data analysis that's been done and perhaps in the nuclear industry and apply that to the offshore industry, where we, in a nuclear industry, it's far more difficult to go and collect data on some of the plants. So, we do analyze data a lot more. We do understand the condition-based monitoring requirements, and how can we apply some of that to the chemical plant sector or the offshore oil and gas sector.
That's interesting, because it's a very good benchmarking that you can build. Did you consider any building a community between each other, between the different sectors?
So we do, and within the Worley organisation, my group of asset management, we actually sit in a service line which is sector agnostic. So we sit in a consultancy group that work across the range of sectors, and that's probably quite unique in terms of consultancies of a similar type, because you tend to specialise in one particular area. And we've run that business model within the organisation now for the last 18 months and really managed to stretch our capability and push ourselves into different industry sectors. which has also helped us significantly in ride the storm in the hydrocarbon industry. So, we've been able to we do a far more bigger proportion of work now in the mining industry than we ever did do. We do a far higher proportion of work in the downstream chemicals and refining than we did do, because when oil price was high, we did an awful lot of work in the upstream sector because that's where the money was being spent.
Okay. How do you measure your the customer satisfaction? Do you do any survey, and how you can also monitor? Because what I was showing this excellence cycle, this is the key and you also work with a different client, and their needs and expectation is completely maybe different than each other. So how do you identify this?
So from an internal perspective, we have a robust engineering management process that we follow. And within that management process, it covers all of our project management as well as our technical delivery. And as part of closeout of a project, we have a quality process where we not only go back and look at lessons learned from projects to feed those back in, but we also get feedback from our customers and our clients on performance of the project and how we can improve. So within our own internal business processes, we use that as a continuous improvement loop. But when we're working with clients, how do we help them look at their feedback and how they increase their uptime? And that's typically by putting forward a set of KPIs for them to monitor on their plant. So, we will implement new processes or we'll develop new strategies for them, and they then monitor the efficiency and the effectiveness of that by measuring KPIs on a periodic basis, and then feed that back into their own internal audit processes.
Okay, great.
Right. What about yourself? I mean, how do you benchmark your company against other companies?
I was mentioning the EFCAM. So we participated from 2005, a lot of assessment, and EFCAM is the non-profit organization. So this also support to benchmark to each other. So in this case, it was very beneficial for us because in the assessment, this excellence model could be implemented in a dental company. It's in the hospital. It's in the school. It could be in the maybe like your sector. So it's any sector that this model can be implemented. And then afterwards, the assessor, I'm also an assessor, by the way, I also assess another company. And then you can really learn from the other companies, because you can also get what are their good practices, what are their best practices. And you can also imagine, and you can see a lot of good practices, best practices, completely in the different industry. It can be very beneficial for your organization also. So therefore, over the 15 years that we had this journey, and last year we got the Global Excellence Award, and then we could see that we could really use all the best practices, good practices, all the other companies in a way, in a good way. So therefore, for us, the benchmarking was from the EFCAM background. And also in Japan, you might also heard that Deming model is very actively used. So our Japanese organization used the Deming. So they have Deming circle there. So like a quality control, QC circles also there. Big Japanese organization comes together also, and then they also share their knowledge, their best practices. It can be continuous improvement, Kaizen, Lean methodologies, and then they are sharing each other. So.
Okay. Excellent. So I'm just thinking aloud now. One of the areas that people did want to hear feedback on was around digitization, and around attitude towards digitization and how we accelerate that, and have we accelerated that. So again, just it'd be worth understanding in your sector, whether much has changed over the last couple of months in terms of how you work digitally.
Luckily that we had taken a necessary steps in the past, like all the working from home, remote working system that was really established well. And we were also working in a big SAP transformation project, also with business transformation project with the latest version of SAP. It's also with the business intelligence is behind of this system, as you might know. And this was a big project. We were leading this for 2 years. And this is what we called Henka, another Japanese word, by the way. Translation is change. Henka means change. So because it changed also to our way of working. because this we translated into the business processes with the SAP implementation of globally, because we have seen that the way of working were different than each other. So the supply chain in United States, how they implement, is different than in Japan and then in Europe. So with this way, we are now streamlining these processes to worldwide. This also help us because many work that we had to do it with the paper. Now it also moved to the way to the digital. Of course, it brings a lot of issues or difficulties at the beginning because the transformational change. But at the end, that with the commitment of the people, it went well. So that we have been successfully launched this during even the COVID time. So we go live in the COVID time, so in the pandemic.
Okay. What about just again, one of the things that we've experienced throughout the last couple of months is we've had new people start our organisation. New members of the team have come in, and they haven't actually met anyone. We've, they've not even been given any IT equipment. They've worked on their own system. We've just emailed them passwords, and they're in. Where I think if you'd have said to somebody 12 months ago, we've got a new member of staff starting, but nobody's in the office this month, would have said, I'll tell you what, we'll leave that. We'll start them the following month. And the whole uncertainty around getting back into the office just means that we just get on and we do, and we find ways around some of the challenges that we face.
This is indeed the challenge also, but we all hope that this situation will not happen very long. So we hope that we will be going to the offices also. Of course, I think the working from home still will be possible in the future also more and more. But I think we all hope that it will be finalized soon. So then we can see each other, their faces very easily. The same question I want to also ask, did you have any big digitalization project recently? And
so we've got a couple of digital projects ongoing, that really do help our clients, particularly those with aging assets. So one of the challenges we always face is we go on an aging industrial plant, and sat in the corner somewhere is a book of drawings, a set of P&IDs. And they've been thumbed through because they're the control set that sit in the control room. We've been working across our organisation on a digital project with a product called Data Seer, where we can scan drawings and pull information off those drawings. So, that technology has really helped us move to a digital environment where we don't need drawings on a desk, but really speeded up some of the work that we do. By just taking legacy drawings and digital and documentation and turning it into a digital format that you can then use machine learning on. You can then start to automate, and you can have that information at your fingertips, where if we hadn't have gone through that process or didn't have that technology available, again, we wouldn't have been able to do some of the analysis we've been doing remotely, because who's got the data? Well, it's sat in that book in the control room. So I think that's a lesson that we have learned, that digitizing things and storing things has been absolutely invaluable. From a personal level, I need to get better at that. I think I have a desktop that looks a right mess because I don't have a proper structured filing system. But with keyword searches, you don't need to file; you can just throw it all in one bucket. So.
Indeed. And what do you think about the operational excellence with the culture of the organization? Because this actually, what I believe and also see at GIS Europe, is the key in the organization. Because, of course, the culture who builds is the we. Of course, it started from the leaders. How do you embed the culture of excellence, or how do you embed also all the changes, like what we said, also digitalization in your organization?
In different culture. I mean, that's a really interesting point, because as I say, I run a global team, and we all talk a different language. Management consultants, technical consultants, engineers speak different languages anyway. And I think we, from an implementation perspective, I think we need to know our audience. And that's a standard phrase if you're talking to people about anything, but particularly when you're trying to implement change and you want to get the entire population of an organization behind you when you have that change, you need to tailor what you say to different people. So, we have certain cultures where if we tell them to do something, they'll do it. And that will absolutely get implemented. We give them a set of guidelines and off they go. We have other cultures across the world where we need to turn it around and make them think it's their idea. Why don't we think about this? And then we have some cultures where we know that if we ask them to do something, they'll go away and develop their own process of doing it. And that's good. That's okay as well. It's just making sure that the end game, we've all got the same vision. And we'll all take different paths to get there, which will be very much influenced by our culture. But having different cultures, having that diversity across the group and the organization means that we do think differently and we'll come up with different ideas. And that's invaluable in transferring information and technology and ideas across different industry sectors.
Indeed.
So yeah, I think that those cultural differences are there, that not only means that we have to do things differently in different cultures, but they also bring up different ideas and make us a diverse and dynamic group to work with. So.
Indeed. Do we have any, also, we can also ask to the audience if they have any question, they can also put into the chat, but also there is another platform, they can also join with their video and they can also ask the question directly. So if anyone in the session wants to ask question, we are welcome. Any question, it can be related to operational excellence, business excellence, or particularly for our industry also.
So don't be shy. Okay. So I guess a question for the floor and for Murat, if nobody else wants to pipe up. But what's the one big innovation that you didn't have 12 months ago that you've got now in your organisation that you couldn't live without?
So I think there is no at this moment to answer, but we can of course wait.
Okay.
The biggest innovation, you mean after the COVID situation, or
just in the last 12 months? So what's changed? What's the one technology, innovative idea, innovative solution that you use now that you didn't use last year? That if it was taken away from you, you'd think, I can't run my business.
I mean, it's not the innovation that I can say, but maybe the change of our work is for sure. I think working from home, that for the digital, that it was the biggest changes, that biggest innovation. I think people get used to now, and then it will need to continue also in the future. So, as a Japanese organization, it was, as you can know, that maybe in Japan is a bit slow on the working from home. So therefore, we were one of the early adopters as a Japanese company working from home. So it was really a big change for our organization and innovation for all of us. So I think that I can give this example, but I can also reverse back the question to you. What were the innovation in your?
No, I mean, I'll just pick up on what Patricia said in the online chat, Zoom calls. I think they've absolutely revolutionized how we work. We've gone from a culture where we used to use web calls a lot, but nobody ever put their video camera on. And now everything's face to face. The obligatory 5 minutes at the beginning of chat, we change backgrounds on screen. So we have that social interaction as well as that work interaction. We use Teams as a digital platform because that facilitates sharing of documents easier than Zoom. But I think they're all a version of the same. But web-based interactive platforms, absolutely, we have changed the way that we work. They've also changed the way we live as well, because we spend our evenings on Zoom calls with friends as well as of using it as a business platform. But yeah, the other thing I would probably use that I'd say 12 months ago that we didn't have that we all use now and we take for granted is probably just the way that we communicate and don't travel. So, whether it's Zoom calls, whether it's digital platforms, but that acceptance that we can do things in a different way. We don't have to print things. We can work in that digital environment. And our clients are coming around to that as well. I was in Brazil in January with a client, and they very much have to be on site, have to be face to face. We've got clients in the Netherlands that we're working with where we absolutely need everybody 5 days on site, and And because we haven't been able to travel, we haven't stopped work with them. We've just found different ways of working. And that's not always through Zoom platforms. That's sometimes through phone calls and emails. But just being far more communicative with our clients and with our own teams through the different medium that we've got.
Would you see any difficulties in the future because the face-to-face conversation interaction will be less? Do you see any risk for the organization or for the world that it will be reduced in the future?
I think this is something that we have talked about as we change our own organisation. I think one of the big impacts is on our graduates and on our younger members of the team that learn on the job, learn by those interactions, and they have to work in a very different way. So I think their career progression will be different. I think some will absolutely fly because they'll be the ones that I've put something in your diary. This is what I want to talk about. Here's the agenda, and I'm clear and concise. But then those that probably would typically take a couple of years as a graduate in an engineering organization to find their feet and gain their confidence may not have those opportunities because they're not as forthcoming and they're not as confident as some of the others that would, quite openly put an appointment in a senior manager's diary, for example, for a quick chat. Whereas in the past, they'd have bumped into them by the coffee machine. So yeah, I think as we go forward, we need to just make sure that we have that succession planning and we have that training and mentoring program working in a different way to how it's typically worked in the past.
How then also the trainings and also the way of also customer training also change. Like in the dental sector, we are doing a lot of trainings. It's a hands-on training, and then of course it's face-to-face usually. We had also the symposium. I mean, we were never thinking the way of it like a webinar or like online platform. So, and now it's completely changed. By the way, the feedback from our customer is also very positive also now. So it's helped us to think differently. And for example, we will do the next week the first online symposium and the very subjects of the minimum intervention, like to keeping the natural structure of the teeth for the future. So like a changing of the dental thinking. So it will be the first time that we will do it online in the world. So and that actually it's changed. It started to change the mindset of the people. That we can do everything in a different way.
I think that's the big thing, isn't it? Is the mindset change of it being acceptable, and it will become the new normal. So meeting people face to face and going out for dinner with them will feel quite strange when we're allowed to do it in 6 months' time. So.
What we have the issue that in maybe many organizations can have, of course, with the cost is one of the important aspects. And what you mentioned, I think many organizations use the prioritization, risk analysis to make this also targets that revising. I think many organizations is doing in order to focus on the cost. On the other hand, there are important aspects of the organization for the long term that is beneficial. For example, the training of your people, training of your customer, or it can be related to anything for the long term, like sustainability approaches. What's your suggestion for the organization? How we can balance them? Because focusing on the cost, but not forgetting the other important things, which is very helpful now even, and also for the long term. What's your opinion on there? How the company can balance them?
Yeah, balancing both. It is a balance, and absolutely a balancing act. I think we need to put business justifications forward for everything that we do at the moment, and by doing that, it's the business justification for training is no different than the business justification for doing some maintenance activities. So I think my opinion on that is we need to get smarter at justifying what we need to do rather than what we want to do. So, training's important, but we've gone through stages in the industry where people have been allocated a training budget and they'll spend it. But are they spending it on the right thing? Is it really critical that that person attends that training course? Or, how do we modify that training course so we capture a wider audience? How do we break it down into bite-sized chunks? That's one of the key things of running stuff online, is it's got to be broken down into bite-sized chunks, because, typically you'd have gone and you'd have traveled somewhere and you'd have spent a whole day in a training course, and you'd have come out exhausted. If you do that on an online basis, you can break that down into like an hour every other day, or an hour a week, or, select certain modules. So I think the way that we train people will change. But I still think there's that balance of cost and justification. And I think our whole industry needs to get better at looking at what we really need and balancing, whether it's an asset of looking at the condition and the business response, or whether it's an individual at looking at the training needs and the business response, of balancing those two together, so that we spend money wisely. It's not about just not spending money. It's spending money in the right places. And in some cases that could be training. You could really justify training rather than going and doing some inspection or doing some maintenance.
I was explaining the excellence model you might see here. Like, the first is the stakeholder expectation. And this is the key, because what you already say, sometimes we are doing the things, but without really questioning whether really it's create benefit, create advantage to our stakeholders. So like you say, maybe we provide the training, but ask and check with your associate or with your customer. It's only for the training aspect, but what they are looking for other things, then to create this cycle. I think the key for cost or prioritization, it's still the stakeholder expectation. And the stakeholder in an organization like you and us is similar usually. Owner, if you have shareholder, customer, of course, key, associate who work in your organization, partners. You have a lot of partners, I believe. Like in our case, we have supplier, we have key opinion leaders, like a dental professional who has big influence area in the dental academia, or we have dealer, distributor, for example, our partner, and then of course society as another aspect. Society is who? Is who we are, neighbor. We should be good citizen to them. We should still do all the activities for the environmental aspect. Therefore, that we need to still see that how we can balance all the expectations together in a harmony with a good strategy that we implement, with the processes that we implement in a optimize this continuously, with the finding the right efficiency and effectiveness, meaning the performance indicator and benefit indicator. So this is very key, because if still this cycle doesn't work, many organizations can fail. And there are some examples that we are hearing. Some companies are just firing some people in the organization, but without really going to understand what is the impact for them and for the whole other society and also other stakeholder point of view. So.
Yeah. No, that is absolutely, and you can talk about people in the same way as maintenance activities. A maintenance manager who wants to cut costs will just say, right, we'll cut the line there. We won't do anything above the line or below the line. But the devil's in the detail. Understanding the value of every activity, whether that's an individual, whether that's a piece of maintenance, whether that's a piece of inspection. Understanding the implication of doing that and understanding the risk to the business from a stakeholder perspective is absolutely essential. Yeah.
This is the key, that what we believe that is the essence of excellence. And it's simple, by the way. It's a common sense. But
common sense isn't very common.
Common sense is very common. Sometimes it's difficult.
No, it's not very common.
All right.
Yeah. No, we always say that common sense is not very common. It's common to some people, but yeah, it is. It's understanding that stakeholder perspective, and that's really where we look at the 3-stage approach. It's that framing. What do we really need to do to meet the expectations of our stakeholders, and then what analysis do we need to do, rather than diving into the analysis that we think might improve. And that's back to one of the very, very early questions, I think, about the difference between benefits and performance. Of really understanding what the benefits are going to be of increasing. You can increase your performance, but do you need to? Are you getting any benefit from that?
The example of what I give in the first slide, like the first product GC has introduced was failed. Again, we're proud of to say this because we learn from the failure. And this becomes like the part of our culture. So learning from the failure part of the process, but we need to learn from the failure that we will not repeat anymore. And the example of that I mentioned, the first product developed in the laboratory were not really answering the need of the customer because it was not taught what they would really look for. So this is the clear example of the failing of this aspect.
Yeah. No, and it's and we see that time and time again when we're talking to clients that have very aging assets, you know, a 40, 50-year-old plant that they're trying to keep going. And they say, we want a full digital twin technology. We want fully automated this, that, and the other. And it's like, why? You know, stop back, take a step back. You know, how do you collect your data at the moment? How do you analyze that data? But more importantly, where are the pain points that are stopping you with producing? What's making you shut down? What's making you inefficient? And we sometimes get carried away with the wishes rather than the needs.
Rather than the needs, exactly. Then afterwards, that we can optimize, but the optimization doesn't need maybe. So maybe the first question were not answered correctly. Yeah,
absolutely. Do we need to be fantastic at everything to give our customers the benefits? And I think it depends on the industry, but and depends on how much people are prepared to pay. So, very good. Have we got anyone online with any more questions? No, who else have we still got with us?
Probably there are no more questions, or maybe they will ask this question directly to us. It might be also another, maybe after the session they were planning. So
yeah, certainly anyone who is left on the call, I can see a few people dropping off now, but if anybody wants to get in contact with us, both Mert and I would be happy to answer any further questions on a one-to-one basis. If you click on our names, you can access us through LinkedIn. You can invite us to video calls, so please feel free to do that.
There is one question: how important do you think operational excellence is for your organizations? Do you want to start, or?
No, you go ahead, Mert. Go ahead.
For us, it's very important because it's part of our culture. So without thinking the operational excellence, continuous improvement, the culture, the quality mindset, we believe we cannot be successful. We couldn't be successful. And this is actually, therefore, this culture embedded to all organization. And openly to say that we are a very good example on this aspect with the good results over the years, with the sales result, with the associate satisfaction result, all the stakeholder satisfaction result I'm talking about. And then we have seen very good support for the continuous improvement with operational excellence. We have optimized the processes over the years, and then we could be able to even get the external recognition like EFGAM or Deming. This was become very clear. So I'm lucky that I work in a Japanese company, but the quality mindset is very good, very high and very important. But I can say that it will always be important for any organization. I mentioned before also, it can be implemented in everywhere, hospital, school, and also I mentioned in the family even, this excellence model.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that analogy. And I think, in the upstream and the hydrocarbon sector, operational excellence has always been applied to how well you operate your plant in terms of reliability, uptime, productivity. And, and I think because of the drivers in the industry at the moment, we've moved away from, we don't need to be excellent, we just need to be good enough. But I think when the way that you pitch operational excellence, it's more about quality. And quality management, and if you manage the quality, it's easier to produce the goods. Whereas I think that's a really good way of looking at it, of doing the right thing properly, rather than doing everything really, really well.
Indeed, and for me, that the quality is, of course, the customer is the center. We provide the best quality, but without the people, without working associate in your organization, without all other stakeholders, with supplier, you cannot create this quality. So. Therefore, that thinking from all the stakeholder approach in the operational excellence, my opinion, is the key for the success.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think the cultural side and the people, we probably don't pay them enough value in the hydrocarbon sector. But I think you get that you get everybody in your culture, you get everybody in your team behind and on board with an idea, and anything's possible.
Okay. Thank you, Neil, for the good question. Thank you, all
Neil.
of you. I think we can conclude the topic. I think
so.
we have 2 minutes if there is no other question.
Yeah, no. As I say to anybody on the call, if you want more information about either of our businesses or either of our approaches, then please feel free to reach out separately. We also have, as Advisian, we have a couple of webinars coming up, or we have a webinar coming up at the end of the month where we talk into some of the practices that we've implemented for clients around optimizing integrity and maintenance spend. And that will be announced over LinkedIn anyway. So please follow us on LinkedIn, and then you'll find out a little bit more about how we've helped some of our clients, specifically in the upstream, downstream, and chemical sector.
Okay.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Kirsten. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening us. And thank you very much also all the very productive and good team of Global Executive Events. So it was a pleasure to meeting with all of you. And hopefully in the another event, you will be hearing other stories. Thank you very much again.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.